Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 99. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be going over a Gogoat team. Now I've had a Gogoat team in mind since basically the beginning of the 128 teams challenge. I just decided to put it on for later because I figured it would be a pretty easy team to build around, and for the most part it was, but I've been greatly anticipating today building the Gogoat team, and I think it turned out pretty okay. Because this team is centered around Gogoat, obviously, and Gogoat's signature ability, which is Grass Pelt, which isn't a great ability. Like, we can talk about it later, but it kind of needs some buffs in order to kind of stand out. But Gogoat's unique ability that it has, its hidden ability, is Grass Pelt, which means that if the Pokemon is on grassy terrain, we will receive a defense boost of 1.5 times. And on the Gogoat, we're going to be using Bulk Up in order to further increase our offense and defense with Gogoat, making us a very hard to remove physical tank Pokemon, as we also have the Horn Leech in order to heal ourselves, and we're also going to be on grassy terrain with leftovers, so we'll be getting a lot of healing for Gogoat, and it will be very difficult for physical attackers to remove Gogoat from the field. And then we also have two type coverage moves and the high horsepower in order to hit things like steel and fire types, and we have the rock slide in order to hit things like flying and fire types again. And lastly, we're going Terra Poison on Gogoat just because Poison is a type with some decent resistances, and it only has two weaknesses, which is Psychic, which you mainly only see Psychic because of things like Expanding Force, and we can negate Expanding Force with things like Rillaboom in order to set up grassy terrain to mitigate the fact that it's a spread move, and we can use Flamingo's Wide Guard in order to make sure that the spread Expanding Force doesn't hit us at all. And Poison, of course, is also weak to Ground, which whenever a Pokemon is using Earthquake, we can use the grassy terrain in order to weaken the power of the Earthquake, making us take less ground-type damage. And there's not very many Earth Power Mons in the format, except for like Blood Moon or Ursaluna, I think is really the only one. But depending on the situation, we could just hit them with a Grass-type move, and then the Ground-type will die, theoretically. Next up on the team, I decided to include Floette because I wanted a fairly tanky Pokemon in order to help out Gogoat, and Floette does have some nice tools in the Alluring Voice in order to try and inhibit Pokemon that are trying to get set up in front of Gogoat, as well as we have the Pollen Puff in order to go for that side healing, and we have the Light Screen in order to cover us on the special side. Since theoretically Gogoat has a lot to cover it on the physical side, we can have Floette worry about the special side. And then also to help out our Grass-type friends, we have the Flower Veil ability, which makes it so that Pokemon on our side of the field cannot have their stats lowered or cannot have status inflicted upon them, which is pretty handy for the fact that this strategy requires us to use two grass types in Gogoat, who is the centerpiece, and Rillaboom, our grassy terrain setter. So it's less important for us to have to worry about Intimidates. As long as we lead like Gogoat Floette, then we're not going to get intimidated on the first turn, and we also don't have to worry about Parting Shot out unless it's into Floette, because Gogoat won't have its stats lowered. And Floette is a pretty tanky Pokemon because we have the Eviolite. Next up on the team, we have Rillaboom, who is going to be the grassy terrain setter, as we can't really put our Arboliva on this team, because if we included it alongside Rillaboom, that means that we would have three grass types, and grass types have a lot of weaknesses, so it's especially hard to use three grass types on a team. But our Rillaboom is going to be somewhat focused in dealing grass-type damage, as we have the loaded dice in order to make it so that our Bullet Seed will hit 4 to 5 times, making it either 100 base power or 125 base power, and able to get focus sashes. And of course we have the Grassy Glide for a bit of priority whenever we have the grassy terrain up, and we have the Fake Out in order to stop an opposing Pokemon from moving for a turn on the first turn that we have Rillaboom out, and we have the U-turn on Rillaboom because I wanted Rillaboom to be really fast in order to U-turn out to make it so that we can always get the grassy terrain back up later if we need to get it up later. Next up, I decided to slot Snorlax on this team, and the Snorlax set that I'm using on this team is not super optimal, as it does have a scenario where it doesn't actually work with the team, and it's kind of actually a bit of an anti-synergy. But this Snorlax set is Belly Drum, which means that we will go down to 50% HP in order to deal damage with our Stab Body Slam, or just to get in some good Rock-type damage as our spread move. And this is a bit of an interesting Snorlax set because we are Gluttony, which means that we will eat our berry whenever we are below half health, and our berry is the Custap Berry, which makes it so that we will move first in our priority bracket. So as long as no other Pokemon are using priority against us, Snorlax will be faster than everything on the field, meaning that we can get off the Belly Drum in order to immediately be at max attack, and then as long as Snorlax is still under 50% at the start of the next turn, Snorlax will immediately eat its Custap Berry and get off a big 4x attack hit into the opponent. And the anti-synergy that I was talking about before is that if we use Rillaboom in order to set up grassy terrain, and the opponent decides not to hit us for whatever reason as we get off the Belly Drum, we'll be above 50% health because of the grassy terrain healing, which means that we won't get the Custap Berry on the next turn, and it kind of makes this a bit of a sitting duck with Snorlax. A bit of an accidental anti-synergy there, but I just decided to keep it on the team because maybe those scenarios will happen less often than I want them to, even though in practice I think it did happen more times than I wanted it to. But we're also Terra Ghost in the Snorlax in order to avoid fake outs and fighting type moves, which is great. Here we got Flamigo, and we put Flamigo on the team because I wanted to have mainly a way to hit ghost types, as we're finally getting to use the Scrappy Flamigo after forcing Flamigo to be co-star on so many gimmicky teams. And finally, with Scrappy Flamigo, we can be immune to Intimidate, so we don't have to worry about our attack going down on Flamigo because of Intimidate, but we can also hit Ghost types with our normal and fighting type moves, which means that basically as long as the Goldango doesn't Terra in front of us into like Terra Water or something like that, we're going to be knocking out the Goldango with our close combat on Flamigo because Flamigo is faster than all the Goldangos. And then we also have the Dual Wing Beat on Flamigo just for some consistent flying type damage. And I decided to put Upper Hand on this Flamigo since we're Scrappy. We have the ability to Upper Hand Ghost types, which is something the opponent will tend to not expect. As even in open team sheets, if you lead something like Rillaboom and Flamigo and your opponent wants to Terra Ghost in order to avoid getting a fake out, in order to throw a fake out into us, I guess we actually are Covered Cloak, so it wouldn't make sense to do that in open team sheets. But theoretically, with Upper Hand, you can catch a priority move from the opponent and then flinch them, but Upper Hand has definitely not come up very many times in practice, so I would maybe get rid of it if you were to change this team a little bit. But Upper Hand is still a neat move, and it's useful for negating priority because of things like Gogoat, who doesn't want to get faked out, and also Snorlax, who doesn't want to get sucker punched whenever it's on low HP. And then lastly, we also have the Wide Guard on the Flamigo in order to make it so that we're not being affected by any spread moves. And there's a lot of spread moves that Gogo does not like Eruption, and Heat Wave, and Blizzard, and Sludge Wave, and Make It Rain. And, actually, I'm going to stop. I'll probably be here all day if I keep going. But we're also using the Cover Cloak on Flamigo because we don't want to be faked out ourselves on Flamigo in case we don't want to make the Upper Hand read that the opponent is going to fake out. And we're Terra Steel, of course, because Steel is just a very good defensive type. And lastly on the team, we are slotting in a Drifblim because I wanted a speedy Pokemon in order to help out with support, and the main way that you do that on a grassy terrain team is by having an Unburdened Grassy Seed Mon, where your Grassy Seed will activate whenever the grassy terrain is up, and then because you're item activated, your Unburden will activate and it will then double your speed. And Drifblim is one of the slower Unburdened Mons, but you're still Unburdened, so you're still pretty fast. You're faster than everything that doesn't have a speed boost. And with our speed, we can go for things like the Acrobatics into the opponent, which is Stab because we are a flying type and we have a lot of physical attack investment on the Drifblim, making us max physical attack investment in order to make sure that our Acrobatics is sitting super hard, and we're going to get double damage because we're Grassy Seed, as well as we have some support moves in the Strength Step in order to lower the opponent's attack and heal ourselves in the process. And just for lowering the power of their physical moves, we also have the Will-O-Wisp option on the Drifblim to inhibit them that way, and we have the Clear Smog in case we want to get rid of any of the opponent's stat boosts directly. We can go for that Clear Smog in order to get rid of them. And we're Terra Dark on Drifblim because we want to avoid Prankster Taunt sometimes, but also Dark allows us to resist the Ghost and Dark type moves that were previously super effective into us. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the team. Let's get into some battles. Alright, so first up we have a battle against a team that I'm not really quite sure what they're doing. They do have Corviknight though, which is kind of the main predator of Gogoat here, because even though we have ground and rock type moves, we can't use them in the Corviknight because both of its typing cover for our coverage of our weaknesses. But the opponent leads Weavile and Annihilape here, and we lead Snorlax and Drifblim, and we immediately swap to Rillaboom because I wanted Drifblim to click Burn into the Weavile because I thought they would knock off into Drifblim, but the knockoff will do very little damage because now we have a defense boost and we don't have an item, as the Annihilape is not a Scarf Annihilape, which I was kind of hoping that they were. They revealed themselves to actually be a setup Annihilape, but we go for Will-O-Wisp into that in order to inhibit that further. The opponent gets off a beat up into Annihilape in order to activate its Rage Fist, and we just Bullet Seed down Weavile here, but their Annihilape is able to Rage Fist into Rillaboom, and that picks up KO even though they're burned, which is kind of scary. Now we get to bring in Gogoat on the grassy terrain, and of course Clefable is going to redirect. I tried going for a Clear Smog there, seeing as maybe they wouldn't redirect, but Gogoat is able to catch the Rage Fist here and get off the Bulk Up, which means that we get the grassy terrain and leftovers recovery, and we are outside of range of another move, and they decide to not redirect for whatever reason here, as they just go for the Rage Fist into Gogoat. They might have gone for a move in order to try and pick off the Gogoat, but Gogoat was faster than Clefable there, and is able to KO it with the Horn Leech, as now they reveal that they have Corviknight in the last slot, and we try Acrobaticsing into Annihilape in order to take it out, but Corviknight sets up the Tailwind as Gogoat just gets in some Rock Slide damage, and Gogoat's pretty healthy, all things considered, but now we're out of grassy terrain, so our grassy terrain recovery is not good, but we are still faster than the Annihilape even when they have their Tailwind up, and I Horn Leash them just in case they decide to take out Drifblim for whatever reason, being faster, and now we can just Will-O-Wisp into their Corviknight, and they are going to be able to take out Gogoat here, but they do massive damage to themselves on the Brave Bird, and we kind of just need to hope that they don't have Roost here. They do have Rocky Helmet on their Corviknight, but their Brave Bird is chipping them away as well, the Will-O-Wisp, and we go for the Belly Drum here in order to get Snorlax set up for the next turn, where we activate our Custap Berry and we get the Body Slam into Corviknight, and that is going to be able to overpower Corviknight. Next up, we have a team that is using a Spidops. That's it. I don't know what else this team really is aiming to do. So we immediately lead Gogoat and Floette here, hoping that they would try to intimidate us, and they do try to intimidate us, but the Flower Veil blocks it for Gogoat, and we Terra Poison on Gogoat so that we do not take super effective fire or bug type damage, and they go for the first impression here, and we get off the Bulk Up with Gogoat, and they try to Party Shot out into Floette, but Floette catches it with the Protect there, and now we swap in Rillaboom in order to get up our Grass Pelt, as the Spidops goes for the Silk Trap, hoping to maybe lower the speed on Gogoat, as we just get a Rock Slide into the Incineroar, but we not only no longer have our Flower Veil on the field in order to negate the lowering of stats on Gogoat. Gogoat's also no longer a Grass type because we're Poison type, so our stats go down either way there. But you turn out in order to bring back Floette in order to get off another Bulk Up, and the Grimmsnarl goes for Fling, and it flinged a big nugget at us, hoping to do some good physical damage, but we have 2 times defense and we're on grassy terrain, so our defense is super high right now, and the only special attacker that it looks like they actually have is Sylveon at this point in order to try and be their saving grace. Of course, we get our attack lowered again, but we can always bring that back up with Bulk Up, depending on what they bring in here. And they do, in fact, reveal that they have Sylveon in the back, and they immediately decide to Terra Fairy it, not even being a defensive Terra. And they crit our Gogoat, which is more damage than I was okay with, but at least we get the light screen with Floette here, and we get good recovery on Gogoat with the grassy terrain and the leftovers. We protect Floette here as they go for Hyper Voice again, and Gogoat is just barely able to survive it and gets off the Horn Leech, taking out the Sylveon, and I don't know if that crit mattered. I don't think that crit matters because we have our attack up and we're on grassy terrain, so it probably didn't. But grassy terrain ends here as they bring it back in Spidops, and we can just Rock Slide into the opponent and Pollen Puff into our Gogoat in order to keep it super healthy. And at this point, with only Spidops left, the opponent doesn't have a way out of the game, but they can at least try to Silk Trap. Not that Silk Trap does any damage. Yeah, the opponent forfeits there. Here we have a rain team with none of the usual rain components. Like, they might be Hurricane and Dragonite could be a possibility, but other than that, nothing else on this team really values the rain that much. So we lead Flamigo and Snorlax. Here's the opponent leads Incineroar and the Amoonguss, and they get off the Intimidate into just Snorlax. We protect Snorlax because I thought that they would that would be the slot that they try to go for the Spore into. And we just close combat the Incineroar for free there to take it out, but they do in fact decide to Spore into Flamigo for whatever reason, and they get the Drizzle off with their Pelipper, as now they decide to Tailwind and Spore into our Snorlax, and Snorlax takes a sleep turn, and we protect with Floette here in order to not get put to sleep quite yet, as we want Snorlax to wake up, and it does wake up here, and it gets off the belly drum. But at this point, I was the wrong EVs in order to make it so that we take 50% damage, so we corrected it later, but I'm 51%, so we can't go for the Custap strategy here. We kind of have to meander around the Amoonguss and the Pelipper here for a little bit with the Floette, because they'll do damage to us with Weather Ball, sure, and that will allow us to activate Custap Berry, but they put us to sleep, so even if we eat the Custap Berry, we can't do that. So we have to Pollen Puff up Snorlax in order to keep Snorlax above where the Custap Berry activates, and they keep Weather Balling into us, and the Amoonguss also has Sludge Bomb, so we can do actual damage into Floette, but they did poison us on the Sludge Bomb, which means they at least can't put to sleep Floette, so we just need to wait for Snorlax to wake up, and for it to take enough damage here in order to activate the Custap Berry. Yeah, we're still in this healing and tailwinding cycle, and the tailwind doesn't matter as long as Snorlax eats the Custap Berry. It's just, that's becoming increasingly less likely that Snorlax eats it, but Snorlax just gets the wake up here naturally, and gets the Rock Slide into both Pelipper, who's not Focus Sash, and big damage into Amoonguss, as they reveal that they have Skeledirge in the back, who's probably unaware and doesn't care about the 4 times attack boost that we have on the Snorlax, and we just kind of let Floette go there. There's nothing really for it to do at this point. We bring in Rillaboom because I want to fake out the Amoonguss in order to take out the Amoonguss so that I can't put to sleep Snorlax again, and it's the only Pokemon that cares about our 4 times attack on Snorlax. So now it is this Terra Fairy Skeledirge versus the world, and now that Skeledirge doesn't resist the Grass type moves anymore, we get good damage into it with Bullet Seed, as they just decide to take us out with Torch Song, but Snorlax's Body Slam is going to be able to finish off the Skeledirge. Here we have a battle against Trick Room Rain, but they don't have an actual rain setter here, so I'm not quite sure what the plan is. But we immediately lead Flamigo and Snorlax into the opponent's Fergaref and Incineroar, and they intimidated us only on Snorlax. Snorlax goes Terra Ghost here because I wanted it to dodge a Fake Out, but they Fake Out Flamigo, and Flamigo's Cover Cloak, so it just gets the close combat to take out Incineroar, and we get the Belly Drum off with Snorlax, and we're the right spread so that we do get to activate our Custap Berry on the next turn. And Ursaluna goes Terra Normal, and it gets Helping Handed here, but we Wide Guard with Flamigo just in case the Fergaref went for the spread Hyper Voice or Dazzling Gleam or something like that in order to hit us, but Snorlax at ×4 attack, of course, is just going to take out the Ursaluna with the Body Slam, and the opponent decides to give up after that. And lastly, we have a team that's really good for Gogoat here, as 5 out of 6 Mons on this team are physical attackers, except for the Gardevoir. So the opponent immediately leads with their Gardevoir and their Tyranitar, which we like to see, as we bring in Gogoat and Rillaboom in order to immediately get up our grassy terrain. We fake out the Gardevoir so that hopefully it cannot move, as we get a bulk up off with Gogoat to take less physical damage, and the Tyranitar sets up rocks, which is a little bit disappointing to see. I don't think that there's anything the Tyranitar really could have done in that position. But we just Bullet Seed into their Gardevoir because Rillaboom is faster than them guaranteed, because Gardevoir just doesn't hit a high enough speed. And we Horn Leech into the Tyranitar in order to just take that out of the equation too. Now they bring in Excadrill and Houndstone here, which is a pretty sick endgame because Excadrill is fast and Houndstone does that, and they crit us on the last respect, so it does a lot of damage through our Grass Pelt and through our defense boost. But we get the Horn Leech into Excadrill in order to gain a lot of our HP back, and their Turns of Sand are running out, whereas we can just bring in back in Rillaboom in order to reset the grassy terrain. But they go for their Terra Ghost on Houndstone here in order to take out Flamigo, as Gogoat is holding its ground with its Horn Leech, doing a super good amount of damage into Houndstone there. But now we bring in Rillaboom because Rillaboom can just click the Grassy Glide into Houndstone and take it out of the game. So yeah, suffice to say, if all of competitive Pokemon was just the opponent bringing 5 out of 6 special attackers, and the one special attacker is slower than Rillaboom, then we just win every time, and the game is easy. So yeah, that was the Gogoat team, and this Gogoat team has made me realize that Grass Pelt is actually a super underwhelming ability, because let's look at Grass Pelt, and let's look at Huge Power, which is still a really good ability when put on specific Pokemon, but just compared to Grass Pelt, Huge Power doubles your attack, whereas Grass Pelt only multiplies your defense by 1.5 times, which is, definitely not double. So it's a weaker than huge power, but it's also only for your defense, whereas huge power is put on attacker Pokemon, so you don't use your special attack. So with Grass Pelt, you're not getting anything for your special damage that you're taking, but also Grass Pelt also only works if grassy terrain is up, which means that in order to set the grassy terrain, you either have to bring another grass type, and grass types already inherently have so many weaknesses that putting 2 grass type Pokemon on a team, unless their names are Rillaboom and Amoonguss, is incredibly difficult. Or you have to put manual grassy terrain on a Pokemon in order to get your grassy terrain, which was something I debated on doing with Floette instead of having like light screen, but I think the light screen was more usable in the long run. But I feel like if I put manual grassy terrain on any Pokemon in this format, I could probably end up in an insane asylum. But suffice to say, I think this is enough to warrant Grass Pelt getting some kind of buff in the future, where the 2 buffs that I've been thinking about that if I was to make for Grass Pelt would either be that Grass Pelt just halves damage that you take from ice type moves. Since it's a pelt, it kind of helps you like keep warm, and that's my thought process, is that it halves the damage for ice type moves, which would be nice because you're negating one of your weaknesses as a grass type, but it also makes it easier for you to bring 2 grass types because they technically wouldn't be weak to the same things. Or what you can do with Grass Pelt is that whenever you have the grassy terrain up, you just don't get affected by the secondary effects of moves, which would still be really valuable by all means, but a little bit less on brand, just more powerful. But also, I want to say that if we ever get a regional variant of Gogoat that's a grass rock type, I think that Gogoat would be good. And Grass Rock Gogoat might be the thing that replaces Fire Tauros for me in terms of regional variant Pokemon that I want to see in the future. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things would help me out an absolute ton, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.